For me, ice fishing is about being out in the elements. It's about walking on water. It's about being in a spot where you get to see things that not everyone gets to see. It's about being able to chase the fish without being on a boat. It's about the social aspect of it. Ice fishing is the most social activity I've ever been a part of.
Welcome to the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast, inspiring real women with a passion for fishing and the outdoors to go get their adventure on. Now, here's your fearless host, Angie Scott.
Welcome to the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast. This week's episode is the second in the Breaking the Ice series where I'm showcasing amazing women in ice fishing. I recently wrote my first feature article for Trailer Life magazine called Breaking the Ice, and so I decided to release the interviews I did with the ladies I featured in the article as podcast episodes. The article, which was in a special edition of the December issue of Trailer Life magazine, should be posted online soon from what I'm told. And when it is, I'll be sure to let you know so you guys can check it out. I hope you enjoyed last week's episode featuring World Championship ice angler Deb Compton. This week, I'm featuring someone who's no stranger to the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast, and that's Hannah Stonehouse Hudson. Hannah was a guest on the show way back on episode 43, where she shared her amazing story. And if you missed that one, I highly recommend you go back and check it out. It was a really great episode, and you can find it easily by going to thewomanangler.com/43. So that interview was right before the women's ice fishing event that took place up in Bayfield, Wisconsin in January of 2019. And on this week's episode, Hannah reminisces back about that meaningful event. You have to hear it, so let's just get right to it as I welcome back to the show diehard ice angler Hannah Stonehouse Hudson. What was the whole Bayfield experience like for you? I know you had a couple of I read the article that came out, and you had a couple kind of epic experiences, like on your birthday, and then on, just the realization on the day of the anniversary of his passing as well. So if you could just kind of talk a little bit about that, that'd be awesome.
Let's see. Where do I even start? So, that was a really fun experience for me because not many people understood or knew that I enjoyed ice fishing with Jim, even like that he and I fished together so much prior to his passing. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people just knew me as the person behind the camera and just someone who kind of liked to ice fish. And what was interesting was, so we're on these spots and we're taking people, and these are waypoints I have in my head. These are places I've been. These are places that Jim had guided clients. And so the fact that I got to be with Tommy, who was one of the people who was with him when he passed away, and one of the guys who took over his guide service, on not only my birthday, where I caught my first brown trout through the ice,
nice,
with me, and then, on the anniversary of his passing, I've got all these people there who I absolutely adore and who were the people who brought me and got me ice fishing again. We were all at this, we were all together fishing some of his favorite spots, some of our favorite spots, Jim and I's favorite spots. And it was an incredible experience. The good thing was I could see where he passed away from the spot that we were in.
Oh, wow.
And it was like he was, and I know he's with us always. Like he is always with me. He's always with his friends. He is part of Lake Superior. It is him. And so to be there and realize like I had moved forward so much in life in such a good, positive way. And I was introducing people to a body of water that he introduced me to. That was incredible. And to be able to be in Bayfield, introducing people to Bayfield in the winter, my favorite place on the planet.
Yeah. Well, and you also did like a demonstration, a safety demonstration
Yeah.
And that was the next day, right after the
Right.
Women on Ice event. What was that like?
That was an incredible experience for me because it was bringing agencies together that normally did not, they respond all together, but they don't always get to practice together.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the responding agencies from Madeline Island who were the ones who, and his friends who responded to his accident, along with Red Cliff Fire Department, which also responded to it, and Bayfield Fire and Ambulance were there as well as the Coast Guard. And the Coast Guard doesn't necessarily respond to a lot of ice emergencies. The volunteers are the ones who respond. And that was really important for me to celebrate. The reason that people can live in Bayfield, they can live in Red Cliff, they can live in the Chequamegon Bay area is because of volunteer rescue. They are the ones who make sure that the entire community is safe. And sometimes they have to rescue or recover their friends. And that is what happened with Jim. So it was really important for me to point out to the world that we need to celebrate our first responders, our volunteer EMTs, our volunteer fire, all of that, and celebrate what they do.
So when we interviewed you leading up to that event, you had mentioned, you told the story and like Jim introduced you to ice fishing. Like you were always into fishing and fly fishing you'd gotten into in college. And then Jim introduced you to ice fishing and you just took to it. Like, what is it for you about ice fishing that it's like part of you now?
I feel, people think that it's when I feel closest to Jim. That is not it at all. And I don't mean that in a like a negative way. Mm-hmm. What it is for me is he's everywhere. So wherever I am, he's going to be. For me, ice fishing is about being out in the elements. It's about walking on water. It's about being in a spot where you get to see things that not everyone gets to see. It's about being able to chase the fish without being on a boat. It's about the social aspect of it. Ice fishing is the most social activity I've ever been a part of. Some people see it as just sitting on a bucket and drinking. The people I ice fish with, that's not what we do. The people I ice fish with, that's when we see each other. I call winter the social season. So for me, it's seeing all of my friends. It's seeing people from across the country and across the nation who travel in packs together and meet up in the winter. It's not, open water fishing is not the same thing. Mm-hmm. And it's because you can walk around and talk to your friends when you're ice fishing. So that's really important to me, to be able to see all the people who are my friends who live all over the country that I get to see in the winter. So that was really important to me. The other part that's really important to me is I feel like, so Jim taught me to ice fish, and his grandfather is the one who taught him about Lake Superior in the water. And so for me, being able to take the knowledge that Jim gave me, and then for me to be able to go and help people learn to ice fish, to be out on the ice, to help teach people about water, about techniques, about ice safety, all of these things, it gives me an ability to take the things. He was in my life for a very short time, but in the scheme of things, a very short time. But I get to take the things that he taught me, both from him teaching me about fishing and the things I learned when he passed, and be able to help other people enjoy life. And that is something that is very important to me.
I know it's hard to answer because you only have the one perspective, but do you feel like there's something special about being a woman who's into ice fishing?
I think to a point. For me, I'm, other than Women on Ice, and now with like being involved with some other organizations, mm-hmm. I finally found another group of women. As a woman in ice fishing, it is interesting because I am still the majority of the time the only woman in a group. And they think that I am, to some of the like older, grumpier old men types, mm-hmm. I am fascinating to them because they look at me, they're like, you are out here, you have all your own equipment, you don't depend on us to take, to find bait for you or give you techniques. Like I am very self-sufficient. So I'm almost like I am fascinating to them as a character, and they ask me questions, and I never feel like they're hitting on me, and I never feel like they're talking down to me. That's one thing I've never experienced really in the ice fishing world. Like I've never felt like I was being mansplained, but I really, oddly enough, and I don't even know if I should say this, I feel like I've been mansplained more by women than ever I have been by men.
Yeah.
But I think mostly it's because men are so of this group, a very like certain segment of it. They don't say anything mansplaining because they're just fascinated that I love it so much. And I can genuinely talk to them about techniques, bodies of water, all of that.
Yeah. Well, they probably see your level of passion and knowledge, and that's why you don't get mansplained to. But
right, and they want their daughters and they want their wives to come out too.
What would you say to a female out there who's maybe not had the ice fishing experience? And I know a lot of women that I talk to that haven't. I mean, they're like terrified of the idea of walking out on the ice or driving out onto the ice. Like, what would you say to somebody in that boat?
I would say find someone who is safe, who has been doing it a long time, and who genuinely enjoys it. The last thing you want to do is go out with some person who is like, I walk on 2 inches of ice and I'm fine. I'm always the first one out. No, if you're scared of it at all, find someone who is usually the last one out. Find someone who genuinely wants to teach you. If you want to know about ice fishing, don't necessarily go out with the people who just sit in an ice castle and drink, because I mean, that's fun and all, but that's not really what ice fishing is about. And definitely hook up with a group of women anglers. I think people are intimidated when they don't know about it, but there are some really good groups out there where you can join in and they are genuinely excited to teach you. And if you find yourself being in a group and you're like, oh, these people don't seem like they're genuinely excited to teach me, there's others, move on to a different group.
Yeah, that's great. That's great advice. Well, so your passion for being on the ice just not too long ago took you to a whole nother level. You totally have up and relocated to Fargo, North Dakota, of all places, which is like voted as the Weather Channel's America's toughest weather city. I was reading back in 2011 because of all the blizzards and the flooding and all the things. But you said, I don't care. I'm moving to Fargo because I love to ice fish.
Yes. Exactly. Well, and people look at me, they're like, there's no ice in Fargo. And that's not the point. First of all, I love bad weather, blizzards, bad storms. The colder it is, the happier I am. Like, I'm not joking. If it's 30 below, I am a happy woman. But it is right in between my two favorite ice fishing areas other than Lake Superior. And Lake Superior is a little intimidating for me because it is such a unique body of water. And as I know very well, conditions change and bad things happen. But in Fargo, I'm right in between like the Otter Tail Lakes country. On the east side, I got Red Lake. I got Perham, which is Otter Tail Lakes country. I have Detroit Lakes. I have all of these things that are super close. And then I have Devil's Lake on the other side, which is one of my absolute favorite bodies of water as well. So I can be in between both of those, and I can travel to either of them very quickly.
And because it's such a frigid part of the country in the winter, I imagine the ice conditions are better longer than they are
earlier. And that is me. Like, I was just on the texting with my significant other who is like, don't you like fall? Like, stop wishing it away. I'm like, of course I like fall, but I also really, really like ice fishing. So get used to it.
You could be one of those. Some people like travel the country for the endless summer. You'd be the one to travel around for the endless ice.
Yeah, I actually would. I would do 2 months of fall for bird dog photos, and then the rest just ice fishing.
Well, thank you so much for coming back on the show and doing a little recap. And I'm looking forward to when that documentary finally gets released. I can't wait to see it.
Me too.
It'll be awesome.
I can't wait either. I'm I am so excited. I just love that my life has brought me here, and it's brought me fun people like you. So thank you.
Aw. All right, that wraps up this week's Breaking the Ice interview. There's more to come in this series. Next week, I'm featuring the founder of the Ladies Midwest Meetup, Alicia Thompson. We talk about the special women's ice fishing event, and timing couldn't be better because registration just opened for the 2021 Minnesota Ladies Midwest Meetup event. First one they're doing in Minnesota on Lake Mille Lacs, January 14th through 17th. So be sure and catch next week's episode. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast on your favorite podcast app, and we'll see you next week.